Welcome to a special episode of Big Local Live Tarek Community Podcast. I would like to share a 3-day event that I went to for 3 days. It is called Big Local Connects. Big Local Connect is a event that they do once a year. Now, this is my first time actually going to this 3-day event, where different organizations meet together, like all kinds of different big local organizations meet together for the very first time. You get to meet people around the world. So basically, I had the privilege of meeting people from New Zealand, asking them about their experiences in the big local area over there, which was really good. I'll tell you some of my highlights. One of my highlights was actually learning how to use social media in terms of advertising this podcast. And I had the privilege of showing my podcast to some big local areas and sharing them as well. I also have now one of my highlights at the end of the 3 days. I'm not going to talk about that now. I'm just going to explain a bit more about the program. One of my highlights is learning social media skills. So I got the privilege of meeting a person from BBC who actually records radio shows for the BBC, which was fun. And I got to ask a few questions on the history of BBC. But I tell you, one of my other highlights is that I got to share my opinion about, income or benefits that you get for housing, and my experience with housing benefits and stuff like that. I also got the privilege to listen to the first ever Big Local Live radio show with Chris Allen, a big local rep who did the radio show. That radio show, I got to listen to some of people's experiences during the Big Local Connects and what projects they do in their area. I also got the privilege to give advice on what to do in this lockdown, things they can do in this lockdown. For example, I had the privilege of sharing this project with them, and I encouraged every single volunteer that was there to do something creative like me. And now, because of all of this event, I got the privilege to set up my own group. My group is on Workplace called Big Local Live Tarek Community Podcast. Please follow it if you have Workplace. And one of the privileges for me, or the biggest highlight for me, is having lunch with some of the big local volunteers, getting to know them, and just doing new projects with them as well. And just so you know, that soon I am going to learn a bit more about Zoom, because I got the offer to do some Zoom training with some of the local trust reps and big local reps, which I'm really excited about, because then I'll be a Zoom whiz. Trying to remember, there was a lot of fun experiences. Oh, and one of the other experiences I had is actually learning different skills, like um, talking to different organizations about health, how to stay healthy, what you can do to stay healthy, and ways you can, you know, ways that you can do to control your feelings when you're in lockdown. We had this interesting workshop. Um, it was just like our barn, the um, community, my other community that I explained about before. It was basically like a yoga class or like a calm class where they teach you breathing techniques. And yeah, I really enjoyed that session. It really calmed me down afterwards. For example, one breathing technique that I learned is you close your eyes for 5 seconds and count to 5 seconds as well. And that helped me to calm myself down after a while. We also learned a bit more about the history of Big Local and how it came about. Now, I'm not very good in detail in history, but hearing the story of Big Local and 250 Big Local organizations um, was really inspiring. I also got the privilege to share some of my experiences with some of the reps. I told them about the projects I did with Bristol Court, for example, and I got to not actually show them what I did, but I got to explain the story of the Bristol Court for Talent, and um, and they got amazed by the story. But one of the stories that really impacted me during this program is, like we were talking about, you know, how people feel about lockdown. We were saying that some people may not be treated equally, but everyone should be treated equally. I think they should anyway, but some people don't think that. But it's fair to say that everyone should be treated equally. It was, I agreed with that situation. But one of the hardest things when I was in that event is talking about, and one of the saddest things is that talking about, you know, how my life was like, where, you know, some people can't afford things to buy that they want to buy. That was one of the hardest things I've ever faced. But I tell you, the best thing for me is listening to the radio show by Chris Allen, Big Local Rep. And I'm really amazed about, you know, they kind of took the inspiration from this podcast to actually do the radio show. And I wish I got to share my experience with him. But I'm lucky to see him this week, and I'll get to explain my story. I'm just thinking. When we were having lunch, we were telling each other some funny jokes about Big Local, and one of the highlights for me is actually sharing some experiences that I did, like the mural that we did, Big Local. We were saying that, I was telling them that our Big Local events are usually held in Cranford Community College, and I, as a big local board member, explained why I actually set up this project and why I enjoy Word of the Wednesday, or things that I enjoy to do. And also meeting new people was really fun. Now we still stay in contact, and I'm very delighted to tell you all that we will have some of them on the show, and I've got a very long list to go through. So I'm really excited to let you know that. One of them was like the big local managers that I'm really excited for you guys to meet, and how I want to explain how I started this group that I've created on Workplace. And the reason why I want you to join it is because I want you to try and grow your projects. For example, I want you to join my group because I want you to grow your projects, and I want you to get inspired by the group that I set up, and I hope that your project will grow like mine. I don't want to be too picky, but my group has, I was astonished the other day because my group has reached 100 members in a week. Thanks to Big Local Connect for meeting people around this 3-day event. One of the highlights as well that I had, Big Local, is at the end. I got to meet a person who's a musician. He told us his story, how he got impacted just by hearing. This is a famous musician. He got impacted just by hearing people's stories, and he wrote a song because he got impacted by what Big Local do. So yeah, I really enjoyed the last event of Big Local Live, of Connects at Home, not Big Local Live, because I like to see people inspired by that story. I would also like to share, I have to admit, when I first entered the Zoom meetings for the Big Local Connect, I was worried, people, because I don't know who will be there, I was nervous going to that event. But when I entered that event, I really felt it like a family. I did. I can't express how I feel, and I just felt, really happy that I went there and achieved. I represented my community, and yeah, I was so happy to share my stories with lots of people around the world. And I just can't believe how now we are global with this project, Big Local Live Totes Community Podcast. And I can't believe I have reached 100 members thanks to Big Local Connects for helping me with the group. And now I just can't express how I feel. And thank you to those listening in to the shows. Thank you for supporting me all these times. And I'm just so happy that I can't explain too much how I'm actually feeling. But Big Local Connects have been exceptional. Without them, I would have I wouldn't reach that far. And thanks to Taz for telling me about that event. Thanks to him. Um, so one of the other highlights is hearing the big local story of Big Local and the history of Big Local and how a Big Local got on the news, and some news stories of in the newspaper, very old stories of Big Local, and it was just a good story to have. I'm excited to inform you that I am still in contact with these people, and I will get to meet them this week again. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I hope you guys listening in will actually get to meet them soon. So please, please, please join my group, as I have more really exciting things coming up. For example, this podcast, and maybe some new workshops that I'm doing with Big Local Connects. I hope that some of you will be into next year's in July next year, because I know I will. I enjoyed it too much. So all I want to say is Big Local Connects is like the best thing I've ever joined, especially meeting everyone and having lunch with them and knowing lots of experiences and getting to know about I forgot to mention about the food banks, and hearing people's stories that people are still impacted by how Big Local support them in the food bank, because normally people in different countries are not very kind, especially when I go to different countries. Maybe because I'm disabled, I don't know. But hearing people's stories, kind stories, it's actually, Big Local has actually made a positive change to people. And I'm just really happy to hear people's stories. Now, I don't want to explain too much because I have something to share with you later on. But all I want to say is that come to the next year's event, and I really want you to join my group, because I have really exciting things to tell you about and future things to tell you about. For example, I'm hoping to do a once a month gathering where you get to meet some Big Local friends of mine from around the world, which I'm excited about. So yeah, come to the next event, which is next year in July, in the beginning of July, and yeah, come learn about how to stay safe in this coronavirus, how to advice on income, and maybe you get to be a guest on the next Big Local Connects radio show, which is really nice. Oh, and finally, one last thing. We had a sing-along session at the end where we got to sing songs together to say goodbye to each other. And I would like to share with you a special thing. But before I finish, I would like to tell you a little bit about this special thing I want to share with you. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it as a surprise. But finally, before I finish, I want to tell you that follow my group, and and then we'll hopefully do more projects together. And yeah, I will tell you a bit more about my experience in the future. Um, this is Tarek's community podcast, Big Local Life. I'm your host, Tarek Mrad, and goodbye.